What is up, everyone? It's Nathan here with the final video of my live looping setup breakdown series. And today, I'm gonna be completely breaking down a looping session for you all. I'll be playing a video of me live looping, showing you all the details, and I will be narrating over it. So let's just jump straight into it, and I hope you guys enjoy. Hi guys, so here we are. This is the scene we're gonna be using for this whole explanation. This is me in real time. This is present me. Okay, this is past me. This is the view of my streams on Twitch. This is my camera pointing a little bit up so you guys can see everything. Down below, you have Ableton Live. This is what I see when I am streaming. This is how I manage all my loops. And in that corner, you have a different angle of my setup. Figured it would be nice so you guys can see a little bit more of the screen of the push and you can see more of what I am actually doing. So things to take in consideration before we hit play. When I start a song, I like to start my song by picking a theme, that being a chord progression and a melody, right? There's no right or wrong way of starting your song, but in these 8 years of music production experience, I've learned that when you start your song by picking a theme like this, it's a lot easier to make it sound like a full song, and it's also a lot easier to come up with ideas. You know, like you can start by the drums, you can start by the bass, you can start by whatever. Whatever works for you is the best. This is what works for me, okay? So let's hit play and let's get going. So I start by figuring out a chord progression. So here I played a D minor, now I'm in an A minor. And then we go to a C major. And then we have an A sharp going to a G minor, which I didn't really like. You can even see my face being like, not what I want. So we try that again. I like the beginning, like the D minor to A minor. It's probably my favorite chord transition. And then we go to an A sharp or a B flat. And then a C major. And then I liked that. So let's record it. Here I'm playing over a metronome. You guys don't hear the metronome on the recording, which is awesome that this is happening. But keep in mind that even though I have 8 years of music production, I only play instruments for about a year, so everything is really new to me, and I must admit that I'm pretty bad with timing. So here I can notice on this loop that there is something out of time. But to keep the vibes vibing, I want to record a melody before going back and fixing that. So here I try to brainstorm a little bit of a melody. And then I like this sort of general vibe. Yeah, it's here. I really notice the harmony out of time. And then I smack the camera with my feet, which I had to fix. And then I use this time to fix my mistake. God bless quantize settings. Super awesome to do looping through Ableton because I have this possibility of fixing my mistakes. And then I use this time as well to organize my project. You see I have 8 rows. I like to leave the last row as just an empty, like, end of the song row. And then I like to use my 4th row as my drop, usually. So we add some drums. And you see that I try to do things in a way that makes sense musically, not just stack loops one after each other. I really want the loop building to sound like a song as well. And it's very slow, I know that. I feel like that's kind of the main difference from looping using the push 2 and looping using a 505, for example. I tend to say to my viewers on Twitch that looping using the push, it's sort of this gourmet looping experience. It is a lot slower, but it allows you to add so many more details and manipulate your loops with so much more details. So here I added a drum loop. I duplicated the loop to make my life faster, and then I removed the drum fill halfway through the loop. So we have a drum fill at the end of the 32 beat count, which makes it for a perfect transition. And then here I'm adding some percussions, just some congas just to fill up the rhythm. And then now it's time for the bass. And here I'm like, it's a little bit low volume, so let's turn it up. Always keeping the mix in check, right? If there's frequencies clashing, if there's something that's way too loud or too low, I can just fix it. And then every loop that I record, I adjust it in my project, following that initial adjustment of, okay, I want my drop on the 4th row, so the 3rd, the 2nd row are going to be a build up to that drop, and the 1st row is like an intro. So a good piano loop. The piano can solve all your musical problems. If you need to fill up some space, just add some piano. It's always gonna be beautiful. So here I try to layer my melody, so when the melody is not playing, I have little hints of this theme, right? Which makes the whole song sound like a whole thing and not just a jam. And then we've been looping, we've been keeping the beat for a long time. Time for a little break. In the build-up, we're still building up the loop. As I said, I really like to really fill up all the space and add a lot of things to my loop, which takes a very long time, and I need to be very aware that it's not getting too boring for a viewer. So now we got a beautiful cello song. And then to finish the loop building, we're gonna add the drum up pad, which you can see more breakdown of it in the last video, where I explain about automations. I really love adding pads, and I really love adding like automations to give a lot of movement to my music. So you can hear it just moving around. I have a filter opening and closing. And then I add a good 7th there to give that tension before the resolution on your first beat. Always arranging the project. I record something, I duplicate it, following that rule on the beginning, that my drop is on the 4th. And now the loop is built, it's time for a jam. You can hear a little bit of noise in the background, and those are noises from the forest I have behind my house. And the flute is a little bit too loud. I noticed that in a second. But I also like to, when I'm jamming with an instrument, to have it like just piercing through everything, you know, so people clearly hear the jam and see what's going on. It kind of grabs the attention of the viewer. So I really like before the 32 beat, around the 28 beat, or even 24. I like to pause the drums, pause the bass to build that tension before a drop, right? Same thing, I use my nano control to pause the dynamic channels, that being the drums, the bass, the hi-hats, and then I just leave that drum fill. I think this makes for a perfect transition, or as good as it can be with the setup that I have. Now I'm like, okay, let's make some layers with this flute. So I play the low part of my flute, keeping to the chords, but staying at the bassier notes. And then in a second, we're gonna record the higher notes to build a beautiful harmony. See, so now I turn down the volume of the flute, it's not piercing through as much. And now I bring the second layer with the higher notes. Break time. And then that overblow in the flute really makes it for a nice transition as well. Which is often the most complicated part of live looping, is how do you manage your transitions, right? So here I feel like we nailed a good transition point. It's time for some guitar jam. So here is a very important part of live looping, that's working with contrast. If you keep your loop entirely full the entire time, it gets overwhelming, right? People get used to the loops, it loses its magic. So I really like going back to my raw drop, just more like raw songs where it really helps the guitar to pierce through everything. It really makes the guitar stand out. And then I build it all back up again. And then here is like an outro of my song. Always keeping in mind that I am making a complete song and not just a loop jam, right? I treat this as producing a song and playing an entire song, not just jamming or freestyling or whatever. And then here something really funny happened. It was meant to end the song, but I pressed the wrong row. So you just keep improvising. Keep adding tension to build up to a very cool ending. There we go. That was a loop session breakdown. If you have any questions, if you want to know more about it, feel free to message me, to ask in the comments. Make sure you subscribe, you like the video, and if you want to see all of this happening live, go follow my Twitch channel. It's Nathan Lishnov Music. Alright? Take care everyone. See you guys in the next one. Bye!